Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're someone who's tired of the usual feel-good, be happy all the time self-help advice, then you've found the right place. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most unorthodox and brutally honest self-help books out there, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. This book is not your typical positive thinking guide. Instead, it challenges everything we've been taught about success, happiness, and the pursuit of a perfect life. It's a reality check wrapped in brutal honesty, and trust me, it's exactly what you need to hear. In today's video, we're breaking down the first chapter, where Mark Manson introduces a concept that might just change the way you look at life. We'll explore how less truly is more, and why trying too hard to be perfect can actually be your biggest downfall. So, before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing what you think. Let's get started with Chapter 1. Don't Try. Chapter 1, Don't Try. In the opening chapter of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Mark Manson hits you with a powerful and counterintuitive message. Don't try. At first glance, this sounds like bad advice, right? Aren't we supposed to try our best and strive for success? Don't we need to put in the work to be great at what we do? But Manson isn't suggesting you shouldn't put effort into anything. He's encouraging you to stop trying to be perfect and to stop caring about the things that don't matter. Think about it. How many times have we been told to keep chasing happiness, success, and perfection? We are bombarded with the idea that we need to do more and be more. From the endless grind of social media to societal expectations, we're constantly led to believe that we're not enough unless we're exceptional in every aspect of our lives. This creates a vicious cycle of constant striving, always feeling like we need to be more, do more, and achieve more. But Manson challenges that. Instead of pushing for perfection, Manson argues that we should focus on what truly matters. And the key to doing this is to start by deciding what we care about, because we can't care about everything. Manson uses the example of Charles Bukowski, a famous writer who lived a life of rejection, disappointment, and struggle. Bukowski wasn't trying to be a perfect writer or follow a standard of success. He didn't care about fame, status, or wealth. What mattered to him was writing his truth. In the end, Bukowski became one of the most influential writers of the 20th century, but not because he cared about becoming famous. He cared about his art, and that was enough. The power of choosing what to care about. So what does this have to do with you? The central lesson in Chapter 1 is simple. You only have so many fucks to give in your lifetime, so spend them wisely. The key to living a fulfilling life is to choose what you care about and focus your energy on those things. We waste so much of our time trying to keep up with everyone else's expectations or trying to make everyone happy. But here's the truth. We can't please everyone, and trying to do so only burns us out. Manson explains that choosing what to care about is not just about avoiding things that drain us. It's about embracing the pain and difficulties that come with the things that matter. For example, if you care about getting fit, then the struggle of working out and the discomfort of dieting become part of the journey. But instead of avoiding that discomfort, you embrace it because the value of health and strength is worth the effort. To illustrate this further, Manson talks about the subtle art of choosing your values. Values are the things you prioritize in life. People who are unhappy often have poor or shallow values. For example, valuing comfort and pleasure above all else leads to a life of procrastination and short-term happiness that never lasts. However, people who value growth, integrity, or relationships might endure pain or discomfort because they know it will lead to long-term fulfillment. Ask yourself, what do I really care about? What do I want to sacrifice for? Choosing what to care about and what to ignore is the first step toward living a life that's actually worth living. Why perfectionism is overrated. Manson also calls out something many of us fall victim to: perfectionism. We're taught to aim for perfection in every aspect of our lives. The perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect body. But the more we try to be perfect, the more we fail. Perfectionism is not only impossible, but it also sets us up for chronic dissatisfaction. In fact, Manson argues that the pursuit of perfection leads to failure. Perfection is a myth. The key to overcoming this is realizing that it's okay to embrace imperfection and to stop being hard on yourself. You're allowed to fail. In fact, you should fail if you're learning and growing. By letting go of perfection, we give ourselves permission to be human. This doesn't mean we stop trying to improve. It means we stop trying to be perfect. Embrace the struggle. Here's the twist. In Chapter 1, Manson teaches us that life is not about avoiding pain. In fact, life's true meaning comes from the struggles we choose to face. Everything in life involves pain, discomfort, and sacrifice. It's just a matter of what pain you're willing to endure. Manson compares life to a garden. If you want to grow flowers, you have to dig through the dirt. If you want something valuable, you have to put in the hard work and deal with the discomfort. Pain is unavoidable. The question is, what is the pain that's worth enduring? If you want to become successful, you have to be willing to face the challenges that come with it. If you want to build meaningful relationships, you have to deal with the vulnerabilities and discomfort that come with connecting with others. This is why the first chapter's lesson is so powerful. Stop chasing happiness, perfection, and comfort. Instead, focus on embracing the pain and discomfort that come with the things that matter most to you. Moral conclusion. To wrap up Chapter 1, Manson's message is clear. Don't try to be perfect, and don't try to please everyone. We all have a limited number of fucks to give, so we should choose wisely where we invest our time and energy. Focus on what truly matters to you, embrace the struggles that come with it, and let go of the need for constant validation or perfection. Only then will you live a meaningful and fulfilling life. Chapter 2. Happiness is a problem. In Chapter 2, Mark Manson hits us with a bold statement. Happiness is a problem. Now, that sounds like a punch to the gut, doesn't it? We're all chasing happiness. But what if that's the problem itself? What if the things that we believe will make us happy are actually making us miserable? In this chapter, Manson dives deep into the idea that happiness isn't about eliminating pain, struggle, or discomfort. Instead, happiness comes from the problems we choose to solve and the values we embrace. So, let's break this down and see what Manson is really getting at. Happiness is not the absence of problems. We've all been told that happiness is the ultimate goal in life, right? We're conditioned to believe that if we just achieve X, Y, and Z, then we'll finally be happy. If we get the perfect job, the perfect relationship, or the perfect body, then everything will fall into place. But Mark Manson says that's all bullshit. Happiness is not about solving all your problems or getting rid of all your struggles. In fact, Manson argues that we will always have problems to deal with in life. The key is to choose the right problems to care about. Instead of trying to eliminate pain, we should focus on what we care about so much that we're willing to endure the pain that comes with it. Think about it. Getting a promotion at work sounds great, right? But that promotion might come with more responsibility, more stress, and longer hours. Is that still worth it to you? It's a choice. We choose the problems we want to face, and that's what gives us meaning. Manson emphasizes that happiness comes from solving problems that are aligned with your values. You're never going to be free from pain or discomfort. The key is to choose what pain you're willing to endure. If you can do that, then you're already on your way to living a happier life. The importance of choosing the right values. So, if happiness isn't about getting rid of problems, then what is it about? Values. Manson goes on to talk about the importance of values in this chapter. Your values define what kind of person you want to be, and they guide your choices in life. The problem is, not all values are created equal. Some values are shallow and destructive, while others are deep and fulfilling. For example, if your core value is to always be liked by others or to avoid conflict, you'll spend your life avoiding anything uncomfortable. You'll spend all your time trying to please others, and the result will be a life that's shallow and unsatisfying. On the other hand, if your core values revolve around growth, honesty, or integrity, then you're willing to face challenges and endure pain. These values will push you to grow and become a better person over time. Manson points out that your values need to be reality-based. For example, valuing honesty means being willing to deal with uncomfortable truths, even if they hurt. Valuing growth means being willing to face difficult situations that force you to learn and evolve. In essence, it's about picking values that are worthy of the effort because, at the end of the day, life's meaning doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from embracing the right pain based on the values you choose. The slight edge of negative thinking. One of the most interesting concepts Manson brings up in this chapter is the slight edge of negative thinking. We're often told that to be happy, we need to think positively, right? But Manson argues that positive thinking can actually be harmful. Don't get me wrong, optimism has its place. But in many cases, trying to constantly look on the bright side of everything can make you ignore the problems that actually need to be dealt with. It's about facing reality head-on, instead of pretending everything is fine when it's not. Manson emphasizes that it's okay to acknowledge the negative side of life. In fact, facing challenges and problems head-on is part of living a fulfilling life. Instead of seeking happiness at all costs, you should seek meaning. Meaning comes from the challenges you face and the solutions you come up with. Meaning is about engaging in life and working through the difficulties that come your way. To put it simply, negative thinking isn't necessarily bad. It's about focusing on the things that matter and the problems that are worth solving. And if you can do that, then you'll be happier than if you were simply trying to avoid discomfort and chase after superficial happiness. The real truth about pain. Another key lesson in Chapter 2 is the idea that pain is inevitable. Pain is a part of life. Whether it's emotional pain, physical pain, or mental struggles, we all have to face it. But Manson says the difference between people who live fulfilling lives and those who don't is the kind of pain they're willing to endure. People often want to avoid pain at all costs, but in doing so, they avoid the very things that give life meaning. Manson uses the example of relationships. Yes, relationships can be painful. They require effort, compromise, and sometimes dealing with uncomfortable truths. But if you value love, connection, and companionship, the pain that comes with those relationships is worth it. The pain of growth is far more fulfilling than the pain of stagnation. So, the moral of the story is, don't avoid pain. Choose your pain carefully because it will shape your life. Moral conclusion. To wrap up Chapter 2, Manson's message is crystal clear. Happiness is not the absence of problems. It's the ability to choose the right problems to solve. If you choose values that are shallow or avoid discomfort, you'll end up miserable. But if you choose values that align with your deeper sense of meaning, you'll be willing to face the inevitable pain that comes with them. And that's where true happiness lies. Chapter 3. You are not special. In this chapter, Manson drops a truth bomb that might ruffle a few feathers. You are not special. I know that sounds harsh, doesn't it? But stick with me because this chapter is all about breaking free from the idea that we're entitled to greatness. Mark Manson explains how this cultural obsession with feeling special is one of the main reasons why people are so unhappy and stressed out in today's world. So, let's dive into it and see why you're not as unique as you think. The cult of specialness. In today's society, we're all conditioned to believe that we're somehow extraordinary. We hear messages like, you can be anything you want to be, or you're one of a kind. While this sounds uplifting at first, Manson argues that this mindset can be harmful. Why? Because it sets us up for failure and disappointment when reality doesn't match up to our inflated sense of self. Manson starts this chapter by pointing out that people often grow up thinking that they're special, that they deserve to be treated differently, or that they should stand out in some way. This belief is reinforced by everything from parents to schools to the media. But here's the catch. Just because you feel special doesn't mean you are. Think about it. How many people out there think they're destined for greatness, yet struggle with their careers, relationships, or mental health? The truth is, most of us aren't as unique or extraordinary as we believe. We're all just people trying to make sense of life, and we often end up feeling disappointed when we don't live up to the unrealistic expectations set by this idea of specialness. The problem with entitlement. So, what happens when we think we're special? Manson explains that we begin to develop a sense of entitlement. We expect the world to hand us things on a silver platter. We think we should be given opportunities, success, and rewards just because we exist. But here's the kicker, life doesn't owe you shit. Manson doesn't sugarcoat it. He points out that this sense of entitlement leads to resentment, frustration, and a deep sense of dissatisfaction. If we constantly believe that we're owed something, we end up disappointed and bitter when things don't go our way. We can't expect to be handed success or happiness simply because we feel we're special. Instead of expecting life to be fair and hand us opportunities, Manson encourages us to embrace reality and accept that we are no more special than anyone else. This doesn't mean we should give up on our dreams, but it means we need to work for what we want and stop expecting things to come easily. The uncomfortable truth. You're just another person. Manson goes on to explain that you're not as special as you think. In fact, he says that everyone, in some way or another, is just another person trying to figure things out. The sooner we accept this, the better. The harsh truth is that we all have flaws, weaknesses, and failures, and that's okay. In fact, it's part of being human. In this chapter, Manson encourages us to let go of the need to constantly be special. The need to feel extraordinary can actually be crippling. It can cause us to try too hard to stand out, or push us to chase after superficial goals that don't truly matter in the grand scheme of things. Instead of constantly trying to prove how unique we are, Manson urges us to focus on embracing our ordinary. It's okay to be just another person. In fact, it's liberating. When we stop obsessing over being special, we free ourselves from the pressure to live up to impossible standards and start living authentically. The importance of embracing mediocrity. So, If we're not special, then what does that mean? Should we give up on trying to achieve greatness? Absolutely not. The point Manson is making is that we should embrace the fact that we're ordinary and use that as motivation to work hard and improve in areas that matter to us. This doesn't mean settling for mediocrity in everything we do. What Manson is advocating for is recognizing that life isn't about standing out. It's about doing what's important to you with purpose. If you're passionate about something, whether it's a hobby, career, or personal goal, then go after it. But understand that it's okay if you're not the best at it. It's the process of growth that matters, not the end result. One of the most freeing things you can do is let go of the pressure to be extraordinary. When you realize that you don't have to be exceptional at everything, you open yourself up to living a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Values. What makes you truly special? Okay, so we're not special, but does that mean we have no purpose? Not at all. Manson talks about the importance of having strong values that guide our actions. These values don't have to be world-changing or extraordinary. They just need to matter to you. Manson argues that it's the values we choose to live by that ultimately define us, not how special we are. The key is to choose values that are reality-based, productive, and honest. For example, a value like honesty can lead you to develop strong relationships based on trust. A value like growth can push you to continuously improve yourself, even if you're not the best at what you do. Manson encourages us to focus on what's truly important to us and to let go of the need to be recognized as special. Our values will determine the kind of person we become, and that's more important than being seen as extraordinary. Moral conclusion. At the end of the day, Manson's message is simple. You are not special, and that's okay. The obsession with feeling unique or extraordinary only sets us up for disappointment. Instead of chasing after the idea of being special, we should focus on the things that truly matter to us, live with purpose, and embrace the fact that we're all just trying to figure things out. Life is about doing the hard work, facing challenges, and being real. By choosing values that are based on reality and growth, we stop trying to stand out and start living a life that's meaningful and fulfilling, regardless of how special we think we are. Chapter 4. The Value of Suffering. Now, let's get into Chapter 4, titled The Value of Suffering. It sounds pretty intense, right? But trust me, Manson drops some serious truth bombs here. We all want to avoid pain and suffering, but Manson argues that suffering is inevitable in life, and the real question is, what are you willing to suffer for? In this chapter, Manson explains how the quality of your life is determined by the type of suffering you're willing to endure. Let's break it down and see why your pain and suffering could be the key to living a fulfilling life. The pain of life is inevitable. First off, Manson reminds us of a cold, hard truth. Pain and suffering are a part of life. Whether we like it or not, there's no escaping it. We might be chasing after happiness or trying to avoid discomfort, but pain is something every one of us will experience, no matter what. But here's the kicker. Instead of trying to avoid pain at all costs, Manson urges us to embrace it. The reason we suffer is not because life is unfair or cruel, but because we choose what we care about. And what we care about determines the kind of suffering we're willing to endure. This might sound a little harsh, but it's the truth. Think about it. When you chase after something you truly care about, whether it's your career, relationships, or personal growth, there will be struggles. You'll encounter obstacles, setbacks, and challenges. But if you're willing to face those struggles and keep moving forward, the pain becomes worth it. The suffering you experience in the pursuit of your goals is what shapes your life. So, instead of running from pain, Manson encourages us to choose the pain that aligns with our values. Your life won't be free of suffering, but by focusing on what truly matters to you, you can make that suffering worthwhile. Suffering as a result of our values. Here's the big takeaway from this chapter. What you care about determines what kind of suffering you'll face. Manson breaks it down with a simple but profound statement. You can choose what to care about, but you can't choose whether or not you will suffer. You can only choose what you will suffer for. Take a look at your values. What's really important to you? If you value family, you'll endure the struggles that come with maintaining close relationships. If you value success in your career, you'll suffer through long hours, stress, and setbacks. If you value health, you'll endure the pain of exercising, eating right, and making sacrifices. But here's the trick. We often pick values that are either shallow or misguided. If your values are things like being rich or being admired, you might experience a lot of suffering that leads nowhere fulfilling. Those values might push you toward superficial success, but in the end, they won't bring you lasting happiness. Manson encourages us to examine our values closely. Are they based on things that truly matter, or are they things that society or others have told us are important? If your values are rooted in personal growth, connection, and authenticity, the suffering you endure will have a purpose, and you'll be more fulfilled as a result. The power of saying no. This chapter also brings up a powerful concept: the power of saying no. One of the reasons we suffer unnecessarily is that we say yes to too many things. We spread ourselves too thin, trying to please everyone and take on every opportunity, and in doing so, we lose sight of what really matters. Manson argues that boundaries are crucial to a fulfilling life. When you say no to things that don't align with your values, you free up energy to focus on what truly matters. This doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world. It means saying no to things that drain you or don't serve your higher purpose. Let's be real. We all have a limited amount of time, energy, and attention. By choosing to say no, you're essentially saying yes to living a life that matters. You're choosing to suffer for the things that are worth it and avoiding unnecessary suffering caused by distractions or things that don't bring you joy. Manson shares that saying no is an act of self-respect. It's a way of telling yourself and others that your time, energy, and focus are valuable. When you say no, you're consciously making space for the things that truly align with your values, and that's a key part of living an authentic and fulfilling life. The final lesson: embrace your suffering. By the end of this chapter, Manson drives home a powerful point. Suffering is not the problem is choosing the wrong suffering. The key to living a meaningful life is to embrace the suffering that comes with pursuing what matters most to you. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about choosing the pain that is worthwhile. Whether you're facing challenges in your career, relationships, or personal growth, if you're suffering for something meaningful, that pain will eventually transform into something fulfilling. Manson encourages us to stop running from discomfort and start focusing on the right discomfort. The suffering that comes from growth, purpose, and connection is worth every bit of pain, and it's what ultimately leads to a life worth living. Moral conclusion. To sum up, the main idea from Chapter 4 is this: suffering is a given in life. The key isn't to avoid suffering, it's to choose the right suffering. Your suffering will define the quality of your life, so focus on what truly matters to you. Choose values that align with your deepest desires and passions, and be willing to endure the pain that comes with them. By embracing the suffering that comes with personal growth, authenticity, and meaningful relationships, you'll lead a life that is far more fulfilling than one spent chasing fleeting pleasures or avoiding discomfort at all costs. Chapter 5: You Are Always Choosing. Now, let's get into Chapter 5. You Are Always Choosing. In this chapter, Manson takes us on a journey of self-awareness and responsibility. Sounds a little intense, right? Well, it's all about the choices we make and how those choices shape our lives. The illusion of control. In this chapter, Manson starts by addressing a concept that's both simple and profound. We are always making choices. Whether we realize it or not, every decision we make, no matter how small, is a choice that defines our lives. But here's the catch. Most of us don't actually feel like we're in control of our choices. We often feel like life is happening to us, that we're being reactive instead of proactive. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our problems and struggles are the result of things beyond our control, whether it's the people around us, our jobs, or our circumstances. Manson challenges this idea by explaining that even when we feel like we have no control, we still have a choice in how we respond to our situations. In other words, we can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we choose to respond. Let's say something bad happens at work, or you have a falling out with a friend. You can't control the other person's actions, but you can choose how to respond to it. Do you react with anger and frustration, or do you choose to approach it with understanding and a level head? You can't control everything, but you can choose how to handle what's thrown your way. Manson points out that this illusion of control is dangerous because it prevents us from taking full responsibility for our lives. When we shift from seeing ourselves as passive victims of circumstance to recognizing that we are always choosing, we take back the power to shape our own lives. The responsibility of choice. Manson argues that the key to living an empowered life is accepting responsibility for every choice we make, no matter how big or small. This isn't about blaming ourselves for everything that goes wrong. It's about acknowledging that we are in charge of how we respond to life's challenges. Let's say you're in a job you don't like. The natural response might be to blame the company, your boss, or your coworkers. But Manson would challenge you to ask yourself, what role did you play in this situation? Did you choose this job? Did you choose to stay in it even though it wasn't fulfilling? Did you choose to let fear or comfort stop you from changing things? When you take full responsibility for your life, it can feel uncomfortable at first. It's easier to blame others or external circumstances for our problems. But Manson argues that this mindset keeps us stuck. If we want to change our lives, we need to recognize that we are always choosing how to react to what's going on around us. This isn't about feeling guilty or overwhelmed. It's about taking ownership of our choices and acknowledging that we have the power to create change. It might be uncomfortable, but it's empowering as hell. The power of saying no again. Manson emphasizes a point we've touched on in previous chapters: the power of saying no. When you accept that you are always choosing, you start to realize that every yes you say is a choice too. You can't say yes to everything without spreading yourself too thin. By saying yes to too many things, you are unintentionally saying no to the things that truly matter. Let's use an example. You might feel overwhelmed by all the obligations in your life, work, family, friends, social media, etc. You're saying yes to all of them, but what are you actually saying no to? Are you saying no to time for yourself? No to your health? No to pursuing a passion? Saying no is an essential tool for focusing on what really matters. And when you realize that every choice you make is your responsibility, you start to get more intentional about the decisions you make. You choose what you say yes to and you choose what you say no to. And by doing so, you start living a life that reflects what matters to you, rather than being swept away by external pressures. Choices create our reality. Here's another powerful idea that Manson highlights. The choices we make create our reality. Everything we do, how we spend our time, who we associate with, the work we pursue, shapes the life we experience. We don't just live in the world. We shape our world through the choices we make every single day. This doesn't mean that we're always in control of what happens to us, but it does mean that we have control over how we interpret our reality. If something goes wrong, we get to choose whether we view it as an opportunity to learn and grow or as a setback that defines us. For example, imagine you lose your job. This might feel like a devastating blow, but how you respond will determine your next steps. Do you wallow in self-pity and give up? Or do you choose to see it as an opportunity to learn new skills, explore new career paths, or even take some time to reflect on what you really want in life? It's not about pretending that bad things don't happen. It's about taking responsibility for how you choose to see and react to those bad things. The choices you make, the actions you take, and the attitude you adopt will shape the life you ultimately create. The choice to let go of victimhood. Manson also dives deep into the idea that being a victim is a choice. Now, before you get upset, let me clarify. Manson is not saying that people aren't hurt by others or by the world. What he's saying is that we choose whether or not to continue seeing ourselves as victims. You can either choose to feel sorry for yourself and stay stuck, or you can choose to take responsibility for your healing and growth. This doesn't mean that bad things don't happen, but it does mean that we have a choice in how we let those bad things define us. If you keep identifying as a victim, you are choosing to stay stuck in that identity. But if you choose to see yourself as someone who can learn, grow, and adapt, you are choosing to take control of your life. Manson challenges us to let go of the victim mentality and start taking ownership of how we move forward from hardships. Every challenge is an opportunity to make a choice, and our choices determine whether we stay stuck in the past or grow from it. Moral conclusion. To wrap it up, the core message of Chapter 5 is this: you are always choosing. Whether you realize it or not, every decision you make shapes your life. The key to living a fulfilled and empowered life is taking responsibility for the choices you make and owning them. This doesn't mean that you control everything, but it does mean that you control how you respond to life's challenges. When you recognize that you have the power to choose, you stop playing the victim and start living a life that reflects your values and desires. And by making choices that align with what matters most to you, you'll find that you can create a life that's truly yours.